Coming up this afternoon on the Dattitude podcast, everyone seems to love to quote they. Who the hell is they? I'm not sure, but they were definitely right when they said there is no place like home. It's so glad to be home and off of Radio Row. Not to say that I didn't love it, because I loved most of it, but it's tiring. Glad to be back. We're back in our home studio on this Friday afternoon to finish up Super Bowl week, and we will have all sorts of fun to cram into an hour and a half. We'll ask again, should Kellen Moore just stay in New Orleans when the game is over Sunday? Zach Ewing is here from Radio Row. He did not get to go home yet. He's on Radio Row to talk about it. I have a picture coming up that Dattitude regulars might not believe when they see it, especially if they weren't watching Saints Insider yesterday. And they will be able to have plenty of fun at my expense. Of course, it's Pick'em Day, so all the fun you poke at me, I get to dish right back at Gabe and Uncle Big Nick. And lastly, we'll have a special, very special, extra point on this very special Saints anniversary. And it's all next on a super edition of the Dat. Stick around.
If you're looking for the latest scoop and in-depth interviews on the Saints, the NFL, the Pelicans, LSU, along with the best bets of the week, then lucky you. Along with high-powered, in-the-know guests who cover our teams, Jim Derry brings plenty of Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.
Where you at, Dattitude family? You feeling super today? Or are you just ready to get this whole mess over? You ready to get Super Bowl over with? You ready to get Saints coaching search over? All sorts of things you're probably ready to get over with so we can move on and get back to normal. I don't know what's normal and what's not normal anymore, except I know that one thing is normal. This is Dattitude, episode number 343, presented by Evangeline Securities for a Friday, February the 7th, 2024. What is not normal is that we're here at 1 p.m. again. I don't like this 1 p.m. thing. We're going back to our normal time. I promise on Monday we will be back at 11 a.m. And all future shows, barring something crazy or unforeseen, at our regular time of at 11 a.m. I know that you all are used to us being at 11 a.m. It's definitely affected how many numbers we have. And the weirdest part is that the Saints Insiders usually go in the afternoon and we go in the morning. So I'm not sure exactly why they wanted to switch, but I'm at their mercy. We'd switched. And I don't know that it worked out great for us, but I don't know. Maybe it did, and I don't know. I'm not the analytics guy, in more ways than one. If you didn't catch it yesterday, by the way, we had a Saints Insiders marathon. There was no Dattitude show, but I was helping out the Insiders people. They had a 6-hour show yesterday. Now, it's worth going back and watching. We're going to actually have a little piece of that show, not a video piece. We have a screen grab piece of that coming up that you're not going to want to miss. I promise you. But it was an interesting show. We talked about all sorts of things. And look, we've talked to so many people over the course of the past 4 days. And today, it's just going to be Zach. It's going to be Gabe. It's going to be Uncle Big Nick. So, and you, of course. We'll show some of your comments in a little bit. And maybe we can start getting back to normal. One more day, and that's Super Bowl Sunday. Tomorrow, I am taking off. I have no idea what time I'm going to wake up tomorrow. Who knows? Maybe they'll just let me sleep half the day. You can be a part of the show. If you don't know, by the way, I'm Jim Derry, and this is Dattitude. And you can be a part of the show by typing in your comment on YouTube or Facebook. And if you're watching on Facebook, why? Be a part of the Dattitude family. Join us on the Dattitude YouTube page. Well, that's where all the family members live. You can always find out when we're going on live, which is normally every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 11 a.m. Sometimes we have special shows, and when we have weird weeks like this one, we have a special time today at 1 p.m. We'll be back at 11 o'clock on Monday. You can get in touch with me on X at Jim Derry Jr. or via email at jderry@theadvocate.com. All right, let's look We don't have as many comments as usual, but let's see what we got in the queue this morning. Rocky, good morning. Good afternoon. See, I screwed it up, but it took me a little while. The other day, I think it was Monday or Tuesday, I said morning like the entire show. I couldn't stop saying it. A-Town, good afternoon. Back at the Derry Dojo, young grasshopper. Yes, I am. And it's wonderful. It's wonderful to be home. S. Cali, good morning. Who dat? JC Brar. What up from Denver? I can tell you that it's a lot warm. I don't know what the temperature is in Denver, but I promise you it's warmer in New Orleans today, unlike a couple weeks ago. It is warmer. It was 81 degrees, as a matter of fact, I think yesterday. I was sweating my arse off walking around. I can't tell you, like sometimes when you get to the car, it was the greatest moment I've had in like 3 weeks when I got to the car yesterday. This fat old man walked 21 miles in 4 days, according to my my ring and my watch here. 21 miles in 4 days. That is a lot. Now, of course, I need it, and it doesn't hurt with a lot of you know my New Year's resolution and trying to lose 52 pounds in 52 weeks. Doesn't hurt with that. But I'm tired, Hoss. I think I'll go home now. Apathy. A bunch of current and former Saints players are doing great at promoting the city, except one prominent player is oddly missing in this fray. We're going to talk about that. It's more than one, my friend. I know who you're talking about. More than one is missing. More than one prominent player. A couple prominent players. Maybe a few prominent players are missing. We're going to get into that. It has to do with my picture as well. So I'm about to give someone credit in a few minutes. Someone that I hardly ever give credit to is about to get credit for something. Gabe wants to know where Michael Thomas was. He hadn't seen him this week. He's probably still driving around Kenner trying to find people to bash Derek Carr, which wouldn't be that hard. Michelle Castro, Araglado, Neesmith. Happy Friday. Let's go. Host this Super Bowl and make a lasting impression on Kansas City and Philly and how we party in New Orleans. I think they already know. It is. I tell you, one thing, there were things that I really, really enjoyed. There were things that, whatever. And there were things that, like, I can't wait till this is over. Crazy enough, media night on Monday, I couldn't wait till it was over. I left early. It was a mess. It was hot. It was too many people. I couldn't wait to get out there. However, the quote unquote media party, which was only about a third media, the rest were like dignitaries and others or whatever. Tuesday night, that was phenomenal. I mean, phenomenal. They had booths from like all these great restaurants in the city that were serving like little, just little samples. And we talked about my diet. I ate so much. I mean, I walked so much. I felt like I could eat what I wanted to. And I didn't overdo it. But some of the stuff I ate was phenomenal. That was that was my favorite part. That was my favorite part. A-Town says that back at Evangeline Securities Racetrack Studios, same bad time, same bad channel on Monday. That's right. The Evangeline, I like that. The Evangeline Securities Racetrack Studios. I'm sure Nick and Ron won't mind. I got my racetrack here this morning. I hadn't had it that much this week. Almost the length of the causeway, 21 miles. You're right. Not quite. 3 miles shy of that. JC says it's 62 degrees in Denver today. Could go for 62 degrees. Daryl Romero, always listen. Great show. Who dat from the coach? Thank you, Coach Romero. We thank you for joining us. Jay Tucker Rafferty, he's loved all the shows this week. JC says it's going to be in the 40s in Denver. I don't know. I looked at the forecast. I don't know when we're going to get cold again. Corey, that line changed again. The only reason why the line changed that you see on the screen, it didn't really change. I put up on Wednesday's show, I had Caesar's line up because we had a VP from Caesar's on the show. And so I used Caesar's line. I use DraftKings line just because if any book wants to sponsor the show, I will always use whatever their line is. But I just go by DraftKings because I think it's probably the most used. It's the one that I use most. I know Gabe uses FanDuel. You use FanDuel more than others, yeah. And So it's either FanDuel or DraftKings. I don't use FanDuel all that much. So anyway, I've kind of, to stay consistent, I've used the DraftKings line. It has not changed in like 10 days, not even a little bit. So I think overall the lines haven't changed. As Callie says, apparently the Eagles have been hit with the flu, voodoo curse. I have not heard that. Have not heard that. JC wants to know when Mike Detillier is coming back on the show. Look, let me tell you, I know that y'all love when Mike D's on, and I got to see him every day this week, and I'm sure I'll see him on Sunday. He'll come on the show again soon. We are seriously, I don't remember which one of y'all had the idea, and we're going to do this in the off season. We're going to have like history shows. I'm going to just like put Mike on the show. I'll sit here and like ask him one question and just sit here because as my green screen, I don't know what's going on back here. Man, usually check that out beforehand. All kinds of stuff shaking around this morning. Crazy. I will ask him. I'm just going to ask him like 3 questions. It'll probably take an hour. But we talked a little bit. If you missed the show, when did Mike come on? Tuesday? Go back and watch it. It's worth watching. We talked a lot about Saints history and how the Super Bowls ended up coming here. Record-tying 11th Super Bowl in New Orleans. How it all started. That's all on the show with Mike D. You want to go back and listen. And we talked a lot about Dave Dixon. If you're anywhere from around New Orleans, then you know a lot about Dave Dixon. And see, anyway, we talk about a lot of things. But Mike D will be on the show playing in the summer, I promise you, when we're looking for things to talk about. Program and note, we'll be back at our 11 a.m. time slot on Monday. I don't know what our schedule is next week, though. I'm going to take some time off. I'm assuming they're going to hire a coach early in the week. I'm assuming it's going to be Kellen Moore. You know what happens when you assume. Whatever day it is, if it's not Kellen Moore, I'll get my flavored paper ready to eat on a live show here. Before we get to the rest of the show, and we have a good one for you, Zach Ewing coming up. We are going to talk about Saints coach search. Gabe and UBN, our picks segment, as always. Before we get to all that, I've got a special photo to show you. Dattitude regulars will love it. Even if you're not a regular, you might love it. Who knows? And then after all of that, at the end, longtime viewers of the show will know that I used to do an extra point. And I did it every day, and I kind of stopped, got out of the habit. And now it's an every now and then thing. Well, today is a very special anniversary. Many of you know what it is. So that's our extra point today. We will have an extra point. Before we get to all of that, let me tell you about our friends at Evangeline Securities. Of course, they are a company that can help you decide if it's the right time to sell your family-run or privately held business. And just as importantly, they can figure out what that business is worth. I have no idea if Nick Braden likes pumpkin spice coffee, or this isn't pumpkin spice. It's kind of caramel today because pumpkin spice is gone now. I'll have to ask Nick what kind of coffee he likes. Maybe he'll text me. Who knows? Coffee's not important. What is Evangeline Securities finding out what your business is worth. They can help you, or maybe someone you know is thinking about selling their family-run or privately held business. Sounds like it's time to reach out to the aforementioned Nick Braden and or Ron Hemelt, founding and managing partners at Evangeline Securities. They will start by scheduling a complimentary valuation from their offices, either on Poydras Street, which is not a good idea to do today. Call them on Monday or maybe Tuesday. Or they have an office in Lafayette. From there, you will be well informed to begin to make the decision on if you want to proceed. What happens after that, you ask? We'll fill you in more later in the show. In the meantime, you can check them out at www.evangelinesecurities.com. I'm guessing Nick is, I don't know. I'm a guess he's a straight up black coffee kind of guy. I don't know the answer to that. We're going to find out, though. Again, what's on the show, we told you already. Zach coming up, we're going to talk. He'll be on around 125, 130. We'll be talking about Saints coaching search. Is Kellen Moore going to even get on the plane? I think no. I think he doesn't even get on the plane. And I don't see a reason for him. I don't necessarily think they're going to make the announcement on Monday. I think he doesn't get on the plane. I think they hash everything out on Monday. This is complete speculation, by the way. I don't know any of this for sure. And Lord knows I've been wrong in this search before. I thought it was going to be McCarthy. So anyway, I think they work everything out on Monday, and I think they have an announcement on Tuesday. If they do, if that's the way it works, we will have a special show. Depends on what time Tuesday. So we'll either have a show after it happens on Tuesday. If that's when it happens, we'll just have our regular Wednesday time slot. Also next week, unless the coach search drags on, we will not have a show on Friday. So we will have guests. It's going to be a crazy week. I've had enough crazy. Let's have some time. We'll see. But right now, it's probably going to be either Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday shows next week, or Monday and Wednesday. We'll see how it goes. Okay, Corey, you still haven't heard the Dempsey story. I'm going to tell it to you now because you asked. You weren't actually asked on Thursday if you were here, and I didn't think you were here. But all right, very quickly, for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, we got on the subject of Tom Dempsey and how, kicking that field goal, and what a moment that was in NFL history. And the fact that my wife got to know the Dempseys very well. And when her and I started dating, she owned a restaurant at the time, and Tom Dempsey went to the restaurant all the time. And his daughter, Ashley, worked for my wife for quite a few years as a bartender. Anyway, got close with the Dempsey family. So anyway, the story that I was going to tell you, because we were talking about how it was the anniversary of my father's passing, which was on Tuesday. He died a year ago Tuesday. But all this stuff coming up about Tom Dempsey at the same time brought me back. And my late grandfather and my dad, they used to go to games together at Tulane Stadium back in the day. In fact, my earliest memory of the Saints is going to a game with my dad at Tulane Stadium when it was about 30 degrees, which is probably why my grandfather didn't want to go, and he had an extra ticket to give me when I was, 6 years old or whatever. But the day of the Dempsey game, where he kicked the 63-yard field goal, my dad tells the story, and I remember my grandfather, when I asked him to confirm whether this is true, he just smirked. So I assume that it is true. My grandfather always liked to beat the traffic, like a lot of grandfathers like to do. So the Saints looked like they were going to lose to the Detroit Lions on that day. I think, was it November the 8th, 1970, I believe? Somewhere, I think I got the date right. But anyway, so it looks like the Saints are going to lose. And my grandfather says, let's go, let's go. My dad's like, I don't really want to go yet. Let's go. No, they're going to lose. Let's go. Let's beat the traffic. Okay. So they walk out, and my dad says they're about 3/4 of the way to the car when he hears the loudest roar he's ever heard in his entire life, and it was like an earthquake at Tulane. He says literally the ground was shaking, and he turns to my grandfather. He says, I don't know what I missed, but I'm never going to forgive you for it, you son of a bitch. And they got in the car, they turned on the radio, and he found out that he missed the longest field goal at the time in NFL history, which stayed a record for 30 plus years? More than 30 years. Tom Dempsey held the record for the longest field goal, 63 yards. And my dad was there for 58 minutes of the game, missed the game-winning field goal. I would have been pretty ticked off too, I guess. So anyway, that's the story. It's not as good as if I would have probably told you Tuesday. It's still a good story nonetheless. I tell it every now and then. Jerry Temple, what's going on? Welcome to the show. Apathy says the wildest experience Kellen Moore is going to have in the short term is when he has to sit down and take questions from Bobby. Will he understand Bobby? That's the question. I don't know if he's going to understand him. I can't wait to hear that interview. A-Town, if Kellen Moore doesn't take the job, then who's next on the list? You know what? Don't even want to think about it. All right, we'll talk about that later. Now to the picture that I promised you that I would show. Got about 10 minutes until we get to Zach, maybe a little less. All right, so we talked about throughout the course of this week all the quote-unquote dignitaries. I'm thankful. A lot of people I've got a lot of feedback on Hannah Storm coming on. I guess I probably got more feedback about Hannah Storm coming on than anyone. That was on Wednesday's show. I had to think about it. Wednesday was crazy. We had like guest after guest after guest after guest after guest. It was crazy. Even having Kyle Turley came on for a little bit. Fun show. But when I went on yesterday, I was completely and utterly surprised because they said, we're going to have a guest on, right? Actually, about 5 minutes after I sat down. No, you can sit down. You can stay here. The guest coming on. I thought I was just filling in. No, we had some guests coming on. Now, one of the guests was Jamon Bushrod. He was fun to talk to. Another guest we had, the first guest was somebody named, what was it? Mystic Zach, I think is what he calls himself. And he's this young influencer on Instagram and I guess other social media. He has like 2 million followers on Instagram. Anyway, he has predicted, supposedly, I have not verified this, but supposedly he has predicted correctly the last 5 Super Bowls and the last 6 college national championship games. He was fun. He was an interesting character. He was super young. We talked about analytics. We talked about all sorts of things. He was very charismatic, fun guest. But the guest, if you didn't see it, okay, you're going to want to see this. Then we had another guest. The regulars weren't around. I'm just going to show the picture. That's right, boys and girls. Me and the Rat dapping up. Can you believe it? I got to give the Rat a lot of credit here. Not for coming on the show. He went to a lot of different shows. Where I'm going to give you the Rat credit, and go ahead, fill the comments, give me grief, whatever. I did not even ask him a question. Zach kind of took the interview. In fact, after, there it is, the Rat. That's Callie indeed, the Rat. Go ahead, give me grief. It's so funny. And then he dapped me up when he was leaving too. You know that he has had to have heard. I mean, he probably doesn't know who I am, but I'm sure he's heard. People, guys, you know, players lie when they say they don't listen to the media. They're full of crap. And I just think Zach's face is kind of funny knowing that I'm going to ask him about it in a minute. Anyway, I thought y'all would get a kick out of that. But I'm going to give the Rat some credit. That's Callie. Oh, he knows. I could tell that he kind of knows just looking. But here's where I give the Rat credit. And again, look, I've said quite a multiple times about Spencer Rattler that even though I don't see him in any way, shape, or form as the future of this franchise, there are still things that he did over the course of the year. There's some throws that he made that I thought were throws that no one else can make, okay, or very few people can make. But where I'm going to give him credit is not about the playing part of the game. There were people, and someone said it earlier, I don't remember which commenter said it earlier. There were some players that were very conspicuously absent from this Radio Row thing, okay? Cam Jordan was there. Rashid Shaheed was there. Blake Grupe was there. Again, Spencer Rattler was there. And there were probably Cesar Ruiz we had on the Insider Show. And there were a few other current Saints there. They didn't shy away from answering questions. Neither did Spencer Rattler. Didn't shy away from answering, what do you think about the potential of Kellen Moore? Which is a tough question to answer because you don't know what Kellen Moore is going to come in here and do. He may have his own ideas. The Rat answered these questions. He went around and he made the rounds and he talked to all sorts of people, whether it's for 5 or 10 minutes or whatever. He talked to just about anybody that wanted to talk to him. And I give him complete credit. You know who wasn't there? Derek Carr wasn't there. Alvin Kamara wasn't there. Now, Taysom Hill is banged up, so I don't necessarily blame him for not being there. But if you're a star of this franchise, this local franchise, and the Super Bowl is in your hometown, in my opinion, you should be there and want to talk to the press. You should want to talk to the people on Media Row, Radio Row, whatever you want to call it. You should want to talk to the locals. That's what all these other players did. They all answered the questions. They stood there and they answered the questions. And again, I give Spencer Rattler a whole lot of credit for going up because, again, Spencer Rattler doesn't even know if he's going to be a part. If it's Kellen Moore, Kellen Moore may say, you know what, I don't think that'll happen. But Kellen Moore might say, I don't want any part of Spencer Rattler. But yeah, he's got to sit there and take questions. He doesn't know where he stands right now. But yet he sat there and he answered questions about the future and about what he feels about what he's done. Dude went 0-6 last year. It was a rough start for a rookie. Took all the questions. And again, took them all from everyone, not just us at NOAA.com. He went on New Orleans Football. He went on WWL. I saw him go on WWL. And he went on a lot of other shows around. He was there for two days. I give Spencer Rattler a ton of credit for that. And it takes a man to do that. Why didn't some of the other ones do that? Michelle says, I'm now a Rat fan for life since I shook his hands. Absolutely not. I don't feel any differently about him as a football player than I did before. And had I had a chance to ask him a question, I was prepared to. They just kind of, I don't know if it was intentional or not, but they put the camera on just Zach and the Rat right after we shook hands. Just saying. Uncle Big Nick said he hung out with DeMario and Deuce. Yeah, Deuce was on the show as well yesterday in the Inside podcast. Gabe says Olave was there. I didn't see him. We might have had him on the show, and I just missed him. I was not there the entire time. A lot of times I spent working upstairs. Corey, that's why you want him as your quarterback. Why? Because he shows up? I mean, the dude could be the greatest guy in the world, but if he can't play quarterback, I don't want him as a quarterback. Great leadership off the field. But if you can't play quarterback, doesn't mean jack. You might be the best leader and the nicest dude on the planet. Stand-up dude. If you can't play quarterback, you can't play quarterback. Anyway, got some other things to talk about this morning. Again, Zach's going to be on in about 3 or 4 minutes. We're going to talk about Saints. We're going to talk mostly Saints when Zach comes on. We will talk a little bit about the Super Bowl. David Bordelon says that was completely unexpected, me and the Rat. By the way, pardon me real quick while I turn on this air conditioner because it's hot in here all of a sudden. It got hot. Yeah, live TV. I know, everybody. Sorry. It's hot. Anyway, there we go. Wrong one. There you go. Appy says, I know Taysom was at the honor show, but didn't see around Radio. Well, that makes me feel a little differently. If he was at the honor show, why wasn't he around Radio Row? That's a little weird. No, I'm not asking that, Nick. Anyway. One thing, again, I got about 2 or 3 more minutes before we get to Zach. I want to talk about the awards ceremony last night. I know Gabe's going to talk about, I think he wanted to talk about Player of the Year. I know that's coming up at some point. Whatever it is. Anyway, there's one award that I do want to talk about. And there's a lot of grief last night, and I guess most of it was coming from Lions fans. Some of it was coming from just young NFL fans in general who love the Dan Campbell way of coaching. People were so pissed off that Dan Campbell didn't win the Coach of the Year. I'm just going to say this. And I'm not going to go on my regular tangent about Dan Campbell. I'm not going to, look, Dan Campbell, as much grief as I give him for the way he coaches, he still went 15-2. So no matter what I think about his coaching style, you got to say he did a great job. You go 15-2, you did a great job. I'm not taking anything away from what Dan Campbell did. However, that being said, so many people expect, in fact, Detroit before the season was the favorite to win the NFC. Many people expected Detroit to have a great season. Okay? So it's not that big. Now, anytime you win 15 games out of 17 in an NFL season, I mean, that's fantastic. You've done a great job. But hell, Larry Holder said in August, you can go back and find it. He predicted the Detroit Lions to win 15 games. He said they would go 15-2, and I gave him grief for it. So, in the grand scheme of things, is 15-2 a surprise? It's a great, don't get me wrong, it's a hell of a season. But that doesn't mean it's the greatest coaching job in the NFL. Kevin O'Connell, by all, most experts, quote unquote, almost every single expert predicted the Vikings to finish last in the NFC North. And not only predicted them to finish last, but I saw people picking them to win 5, 6, 7 games. I predicted them to win 6. I was way off. So what Kevin O'Connell did, even though he lost twice to Dan Campbell and the Lions, and I get it, I don't care. The job that Kevin O'Connell did with that team, and to make, after the debacle of losing McCarthy and turning Sam Darnold into a legit quarterback, at least for most of the season, I think that was worthy of Coach of the Year. So that's who I would have voted for. That's who we would have voted for. Callie says that's why he got Coach of the Year. They were underdogs. To me, the Coach of the Year isn't the coach who wins the most games. And again, I'm not here in my usual rant. Okay, I'm not in my usual rant of Dan Campbell and of him being the way he coaches is absurd. Whatever. My opinion doesn't really matter when it comes to that because you won 15 games. And I don't care your personnel. You win 15 games. I'm giving Dan Campbell a lot of credit for what he did, even though I thought he obviously has two coordinators who are now going to be coaches in the NFL, head coaches in the NFL next year, which also helps. What will he do without him? We'll see. If next year he does something similar, they're not going to be able to, he doesn't even have to go 15-2. He might go 12-5 next year. If he does that, he'll have a good chance of winning Coach of the Year. I just think there's too much. I think what Kevin O'Connell did was, and remember, this is not a postseason award. The voting happens immediately after the regular season is over. And again, so yeah, you're talking about right after Kevin O'Connell's Vikings got trounced by the Lions. And the media still had to vote the way they voted. I just thought it was the right way to vote. I really did. Again, that's the way I would have voted. I get why some people were upset, and I didn't see the full voting. So, Gabe, can you tell me off the top of your head? You can shake your head, yes or no, was Campbell second? He doesn't know. He'll look it up. But anyway, so again, something maybe we'll touch on with Zach. We'll talk about it for a minute. I don't know. But Dan Campbell did a great job for Dan Campbell. But I don't think anyone is shocked by the fact they won 15 games, right? Again, Larry Holder in August on this show predicted the Lions to go 15-2, and I thought he was a nutbag for doing it. He was right. But we also picked Minnesota. I think we both picked the Vikings to have 6 wins. They won what? 14? I mean, you went 8 wins over expected or 7 wins over expected. You made Sam Darnold look like a legit quarterback. That's a big deal. As far as player of the year, I disagree with Josh Allen as the pick, but not strongly enough to sit here and say, that's absurd. No. There are things that sports writers do that I just don't like. And I've been a sports writer for 34 years. But there are things that they do that I just don't agree with and don't like. Number one, even more so than I'm going to get to one, there's 1A and 1B. I'm going to tell you 1A first. I've always hated the fact that the offensive player of the year is basically become a consolation prize, right? When it's announced whoever the offensive player of the year, when it was Saquon Barkley, well, you could scratch him off the list. There's no way he's getting MVP. They don't do that. And it's, to me, if I'm voting, I take these votes literally, okay? If someone is the offensive player of the year, how can they not be the MVP as well? If you don't like the duplicate vote, you don't want 2 different votes, then change the title of it or do something different. But just because you want to split it up and you want to give someone a consolation prize, that's not what offensive player of the year should be. So they gave that to Saquon Barkley. By the way, Saquon Barkley, I would have voted for him for offensive player of the year and MVP. But if they told me I had to vote for either Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson, I would have voted for Lamar Jackson. And the reason of going out there, and I know people get tired, it's just the same reason why people don't want to see Kansas City in the Super Bowl, because they're tired of Kansas City. Well, I mean, sports writers are probably tired of voting Lamar, but I don't even think it's an argument. I think Lamar Jackson, this was the best season he's ever had. And it's not only was it the best season, and I get it. It was because Derrick Henry helped him. I get it. You can make a point that maybe Derrick Henry deserves MVP. But don't just give it to Josh Allen because maybe he should have won it before and didn't. Or you don't want to give it to Lamar Jackson 2 years in a row. Well, it's not Lamar Jackson's fault you gave it to him last year because he almost won it by default because it was a tough year to pick. I mean, it was going to be Dak until the Cowboys choked towards the end of the year. If you go back and look, Dak was like with 4 games to go, Dak was the favorite. And then Dallas kind of choked. Lamar Jackson came up and won his second. And they don't want to give him a third. But he earned it. I never think about who won it last year. The only time maybe I ever would say who won it last year and that would ever come into play is if it was like almost a tie. You know, if I thought that, okay, I'm voting for either Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen, and I think in my mind it's basically a tie, which is really hard because I don't do ties. But in the grand scheme of things, that's hardly ever going to play in effect, and it shouldn't. And I just think that's kind of ridiculous, in my opinion. Dan Campbell was second, Gabe says. So, and Coach of the Year. A lot of awards last night. Joe Burrow, the comeback player of the year. I thought it was funny that a friend of mine sent me a screenshot of they had already, I don't know who aired the awards. Was it on the NFL Network? I don't know if it was NFL Network or ESPN, whatever it was. When they announced the Defensive Player of the Year, they must have thought it was going to be Myles Garrett, or they typed in Myles Garrett. They had typed in Myles Garrett and showed it, the overlay, the lower third on top of Patrick Surtain, who was the Defensive Player of the Year. Anyway, it's crazy. Yeah, UBN stayed up till 1:30 for the first time since 1:30 in the morning. That is, for the first time since probably he was born. And I don't know, were you born at like 1:30 in the morning? That'd be the only time you'd ever be up at that time. I don't know. We'll talk about that when he comes on to the stats. Waiting for Zach to come to the green room to talk a little bit about Saints. In fact, let's throw this up there. And again, we're going to go right into this with Zach. Should Kellen Moore stay in New Orleans? What someone asked earlier, what happens if Kellen Moore doesn't take the job? I mean, look, I think that at this point in time, when you get to this point, the fact that there's silence, if you're wanting Kellen Moore, or if you're like, you just want it to be over, then in this instance, no news is good news, right? I mean, you haven't heard a single word. I think that if Kellen Moore didn't want the job or wasn't going to take the job, I think he would have told people already. He doesn't want to come out and say he's going to take the job because then he's going to piss off Eagles fans if the Eagles lose, because they'll blame him like they did when Gannon was taking the Arizona job and the defense gave up 38 points to Kansas City. So he doesn't want a repeat of that. At least this way, there's been way less talk about it than I expected, honestly. But that being said, he's handled it very well. I never played this the other day, so ignore the overlay that says this was from whatever day, Tuesday, I guess. This is from Media Night, and I found this interesting. I meant to show this on, I think, Tuesday. Again, I didn't get a chance to, and I forgot to show it then Wednesday. So I'll show it today. So again, ignore the overlay. But 47 seconds of Nick Sirianni talking about Kellen Moore. And I think if you can't get that, that Kellen Moore isn't coming to New Orleans, he knows he's coming to New Orleans. He knows this is his last game as his offensive coordinator. Just glowing praise. And I think this clip tells it all. Again, 47 seconds. And we'll talk about it on the other side.
Yeah, Kellen is a great leader, great communicator, tireless worker, great person. He's got a lot of great qualities about him that, he'll be fantastic. He's been fantastic as our offensive coordinator. And, you go from the offensive coordinator leading the entire offense to the entire team, but you're still in charge of 30 guys there on the offensive side. So it's a good preview of the type of head coach he'll be. And I just think, I can't say enough good things about, his football knowledge, his calmness in intense situations. He's just got a lot of great leadership qualities that I'm hoping I get to keep him. But we'll see as this plays itself out.
So there you go. I mean, if you read through the lines and listen to that clip, again, pardon the overlay because I meant to show that the other day, but that was what Zach showed. That came from Zach, by the way. I believe Zach filmed that. But he knows he's gone. Let's hear from the man who shot that video and heard from Nick Sirianni on Radio Row. And I'd like to say I miss you, but I don't, because I don't miss being up there today and having to drive through the fog again. Zach Ewing, how is it on Radio Row today? What am I missing?
It slowed down a lot today, so it was busy for like, I don't know, maybe from 10 to noon, but it has slowed down a lot sooner. It's people starting to tear down, and the circus is coming to an end, unfortunately.
Yeah, it was quite the week for sure. It was one I know you and I won't forget. We've talked to. I mean, I couldn't even remember all the different people that I've talked to over the course of the past few days. It's crazy.
Yeah, I was trying to come up with a list as we signed off our last show today of all the guests we've had through the week, and it's impossible. I mean, I tried to at least come up with the Saints players we had talked to, which was Blake Rupe. Even now I'm scared. Charlie Smith, Rashid Shaheed, Bub Means, Spencer Rattler,
Cesar Ruiz.
I think that's it.
And by the way, it's bringing up Spencer Rattler, and I made kind of a little funny about it, and just kind of sitting there and dapping him up, and I haven't been the kindest to the rat on the show, but I had to show this picture. This was from earlier, and I kind of found this interesting, and your face is kind of funny here. You're like, oh boy,
I think that's just the discomfort of me having to lean forward. I never know. I was in this middle seat all week, and I never know if people are going to shake hands in front of me or behind me. You had to give Spencer Rattler a behind the back handshake. I do want to point that out.
Behind the back dap. There's no doubt. Hey, look, and I will say this: I give the rat grief. But he was there, and every player to me that was there, we didn't get Cam Jordan, but we got most of the Saints players that were there. Every player that was there, current player that was there, and took questions, who knew they were going to have to answer the questions about Kellen Moore and potentially Kellen Moore and, this 5-12 season. They all came, and including Spencer Rattler, answered these questions and sat there and answered every single one of them.
Yeah, they did. And I mean, I think – like the Saints have a locker room mostly full of good guys. That it hasn't translated to a lot of success on the field, certainly not this year. But I don't know every guy in that locker room, but I'm having trouble thinking of a guy where I'm just like, they had a couple years ago, but they don't have a lot of that anymore.
Right. No, I agree with you. All right, well, let's talk about this coaching search. I mean, I think would you say that it's comfortable to say that we're about 90% sure that it's going to be Kellen Moore, whether it be at some point early next week, whether it be probably not Monday, but whether it be Tuesday or Wednesday, I think we would all be surprised if he doesn't just stay in New Orleans.
I think 90% is a good number. I was talking about that earlier today, where if I'm Kellen Moore, I'd probably tell the Saints, like, win or lose, let me fly home and get a few clean changes of clothes and, sleep get a good night's rest, and I'll come back Wednesday. I would just, like, unless he is ready to hit the ground running and understands the urgency of it, maybe that's the case. And, let me do the press conference and get all that out of the way, and then I'll go home and get my changes of clothes and, start the move and all of that. But I wouldn't be shocked if it was Monday, but I'm guessing Tuesday or Wednesday.
Jim Derry here with Zach Ewing on the Dattitude podcast on a Friday afternoon, a rare afternoon broadcast. Now, we usually last until the afternoon, but we usually start in the morning. It's been very strange doing the show in the afternoon. It's like I almost don't know what to do with myself for a couple hours, but we figured it out. Presented by Evangeline Securities. Zach, just talk a little bit about, do you think, I don't think I've asked your opinion. We've asked all these different people about what they think. What do you think about Kellen Moore? I mean, he's young. And it is weird. What do you think about Kellen Moore, and do you think he's the right person for the job?
I will say I think that this is a hire that is fraught with risk.
Yeah.
I don't know that that's a bad thing. I mean, it's a risk. It might be a great thing. I think that he's got a lot of upside, and maybe we'll look back on this as a great moment in Saints history, like the hiring of Sean Payton was. But I also think that there's a good chance, maybe even a better than half chance, that we look back on this and say Kellen Moore was not ready. Or maybe that he's one of these coordinators who doesn't make a very good head coach. I mean, I think the hit rate on these guys is less than 50%.
Go ahead, Zach.
None of these guys becomes an NFL head coach without having accomplished something. So, for the people who sit there and say, well, look at what Kellen Moore did in Dallas and he did in Philadelphia and he's had these great offenses, like, but yeah, nobody gets these interviews if they haven't accomplished anything. Of course, he's accomplished something. It doesn't mean they're going to be good head coaches. And I do think that it's very reasonable to have that doubt.
And actually, even though the Saints aren't that far removed from being a decent team, had a winning record, just 2 seasons ago, and 5-12. You think about the Saints in 2005, they were 3-13. It was just absolute misery and Katrina and blah, blah, blah. And they probably held on to their coach too long. Jim Haslett a lot of fans were ready for Jim Haslett to go before they went 3-13. That being said, I think that Saints team back in 2005, 20 years ago, was in a better position than this team is now, because this team is steadily going downhill. And this team is also in a position, I don't think, maybe there may have never been a team that's in cap hell like this one is now. We talked about how it gets better after 2025, and it does, as long as you don't kick the can again. But this is really tough to overcome. They are last in the league in cap space by a large. It's not close. I mean, they're 32 and 31's like way, way up there. You got to walk up like 8 flights of stairs to get to 31. So,
and it's been like that before.
Right.
It's been like that for years. But in the past years, you could say, yeah, okay, but they don't need a lot, right? Like they've got this top 10 defense, and they still had Drew Brees, and they've still got these offensive weapons, and so they don't need a lot, and they can. And that's why they continue to kick the can down the road. Now, the place I'll push back is like, you say it gets better after 2025. There is no fixing this in 1 year. Because true. You're $54 million over the cap right now. So in order to get under the cap, which before you add anything, even if you add 0 players, you have to drop 54.8 million or whatever it is. I think I actually have it here. I have over the cap up $54.1 million. $54.1 million. So there's 2 ways you can do that. One is you restructure Derek Carr's contract. He's got a $51 million cap hit. You could probably get that all the way down, close to $1 million. You're almost there right there. But I know there's people watching the show going, don't do that.
Yeah, but then you're stuck with him not only this year, you're certainly probably stuck. Kellen Moore would have to say, okay, I'm okay with Derek Carr being my quarterback for a minimum of 2 more years. And even I'm not going to advocate that, even though I'm in Derek Carr's corner. I just don't know with a new coach that you want to even think about doing that.
Right. So that's one way that you can do it, but I don't think that they want to do that. I don't think anybody thinks that's a good idea. The other way you do it is by kicking a bunch of smaller contracts down the road. And if you do that, then you're, like you said, you're kicking you almost have to. Almost have to. So now, could you get it better in 2 years, especially if you have a big draft class this year? They've got a lot of picks. If you hit on this draft class, yes, I think by 2027, you can start to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Oh, for sure. 2027, it really opens up. And I think that as of right now, we don't know what the cap number will be in 2027, obviously, but it's projected that the Saints will be somewhere around 120, assuming they don't kick cans again or don't kick too many. Right now, it's somewhere around 120 million, I believe, or something along those lines. But I agree with you. I don't think there's any way to at least, again, it gets better and they won't be in this boat. But there's almost no way to fix the problem immediately without kicking a can a little bit. You're going to have to spread something out into next year. You just can't, unless, even if you eat all this dead cap money, you're still going to have to move some of it into the next year.
Yeah, I mean, they got lucky last year when the salary cap increased by more than people thought it. I think it increased by like $30 million last year. Right. If that happens again, I don't think you can count on that. But if it were to happen again, then okay, now you're only 20-something million over the cap, and maybe you can get there without too much trouble, and you don't have to restructure Carr. But there's no easy solution here.
No, right.
And that's again before you even talk about adding anybody. I mean, after the draft, we'll sit down and say, okay, well, the Saints still need this, and this in free agency, and I don't know that they have the wherewithal to go get it.
What you're thinking with Carr? I mean, I think you and I both agree that it would be really tough to not go into this next season. And I know you can make him a post June 1 cut and you could save 30 million, blah, blah, blah. I just don't think they're going to eat that money. That's not how the Saints operate. I think we talk about 90% Kellen Moore. I also think it's 90% that Derek Carr is the quarterback in 2025, whether whether Saints fans want to hear it or not.
Yeah, and the other thing about the post-June 1 cut is that it saves you $30 million in cap space, yes, but just think about the calendar there. The Saints have to get under the cap number before they save that money, so that doesn't help you get under the cap number. And then there's not going to be – it's not like a lot of free agents wait till June to sign with their new team, so that money is not going to help you until 2026.
Yeah. No, I agree wholeheartedly.
And if that's the case, then are you just like resigned to, okay, we're going to cut Derek Carr and be terrible in 2025? That's not the way the Saints operate. So
yeah. I mean, apathy says either you're restructuring Carr, you're touching 8 to 10 other contracts.
Exactly.
Or kind of a combination of both.
I mean, I guess you could restructure Carr a little bit. I don't know how that – I mean, does he agree to that, knowing that you're trying to get rid of him in a year?
Yeah.
I don't know.
And look, and I've said this before, and I know the closest thing that we have internally to a cap expert would, I guess, be Dunk. He knows the cap.
Luke's really good at it.
Oh,
too.
Luke is.
Yeah.
So we'll do that. I mean, we're going to have a show just on that. It doesn't have to necessarily be on personnel, but when we get past the draft and into May and June, we'll definitely be talking more about the cap. Because I got to be honest, although I've learned a lot the past few years, I don't really thoroughly understand it like the guys who cover this on a daily basis. It's not easy, man. It's going through this cap thing. You can see a number. That doesn't mean you understand it.
Yeah, no, you're right. And like you look at there's guaranteed money, and then there's dead cap money, and there's cap savings, and it changes with roster bonuses, and it changes with post-June 1st cuts. And there are so many variables that you really have to have. And that's frankly one of the Saints' big advantages is they have a guy like Kai Harley who not only knows it, but understands how to circumvent some of the rules and get through loopholes and find out ways to field a competitive team, even given the restraints that they have.
And look, we've talked a lot about Mickey Loomis in the show, and I'm sure you have too on yours. I get more fan results, and 90% of the fans are just so sick of Mickey Loomis, and I've been kind of taking up for him. But I will say this. I think that Mickey and internally – Kai has more authority probably than he's ever had this year, is my guess. I don't know this for a fact, but I'm guessing they're grooming him to be the next general manager because he's had opportunities to leave this team and hasn't. Just my opinion, just from what I see and reading through the lines. I think he's going to have a lot of say.
Yeah, it's possible. Jeff Ireland's in the building too. That's the only reason I hesitate because
of course
I think Jeff Ireland would be a strong candidate too. So exactly who takes what title and if the other is happy with that, I'm not sure. We're still. It seems to me
maybe 10
we're a couple years
anyway.
away from that too. Yeah,
maybe more than that.
Or does one of those guys finally get tired and just say, "Okay, the Titans are coming with their job. I'm gone." Or whoever.
Maybe. Gary says, great conversations. Thank you, Gary. GP has an interesting comment. Carr doesn't have to agree to it. It's in his contract that he can be restructured to whatever extent the teams want. He does have to agree to an overhaul. I mean, they can't just redo his contract without him agreeing to it, I don't think.
There are certain things, and again, this is where I'm not going to speak out of turn because I'm not going to pretend I 100% understand it. There are certain things they can do and other certain things that he would have to agree to. Okay, so yes, to a certain extent, that's right, but I don't think that's fully, like, as a blanket statement true.
Yeah, and here's another comment by the same person who obviously is trying to wish it into effect that Carr will be gone. Almost every time someone gives a percentage chance that Carr is back, let's not forget that this is just not true. When everyone says that's BS right off the bat. But every media member had already given McCarthy the job 3 weeks ago. I said 75% McCarthy, 20% Kellen Moore, 5% someone else. You can go back and look it up if you want. So to say that every media member had given the job to McCarthy is not true. So anyway, David Bordelon asked Zach, is there any potential trade scenario with Carr to dump his contract? The problem is if you traded him, you're not going to dump his contract. You're going to have to eat a large chunk of the contract, even if you traded him.
Yeah, so some of that is already baked into your cap hit. And then, the other part of that is you've got to get the other team to agree. Like, these are always two-way streets. And Carr is not overpaid or anything compared to the production he's getting. Now, he's got to stay healthy. But I don't think it's crazy to expect another team to take him on, but I think it might be slightly crazy. Gronk is walking by. Sorry, I got distracted. A little crazy to expect them to take on all the cap hits that the Saints have already pushed down the road.
If Gronk wants to come jump on there with
I'll
you,
move out of the way. You can sit in front of my laptop.
is more than
He's going over to XM.
Yeah, I figured
Yep.
that. Look, it is what it is. And I know, again, people are trying to wish this into existence. There are so many people. It's not quite as many people who dislike Mickey Loomis that dislike Derek Carr. But I tell you what, I find it's going to depend a lot on what Kellen Moore wants as well. Because if Kellen Moore, first of all, I don't think Kellen Moore would take this job if he said, I am 100% against Derek Carr. I just don't think he would take the job. I think he would already taken himself out of consideration. But what I'm going to find interesting if he says, I'm good with Derek Carr, let's roll with it. What happens if Derek Carr and the Saints offense improves greatly and they don't have they don't even have to, they're going to have injuries. Everyone does. But they just need to avoid the major injuries to a plethora of players, right? What happens if this team turns into, and nobody wants to be mediocre long-term, but I'm just saying this scenario is going to be very interesting if Derek Carr comes back and has a good season and the Saints go 9-8-ish, which is not out of the realm of possibility, and then a real decision is going to have to be made.
Yes. And to GP's point, I see he put another comment up about.
Yeah, I'll put it up.
That we don't have any idea what they're thinking. I would actually put the chance of Carr coming back at less than I would put the Kellen Moore chance. You said 90% both ways. I would put it, maybe more like 80 for Carr. I think that's the clearest path to competitiveness in 2025, which is what you're talking about. And I do think that's important for a team that, as Jeff likes to say all the time, relies very heavily on ticket sales and season ticket sales. They need to have that to survive as a franchise. They don't have the corporate sponsorships and things like that teams in New York and LA and Dallas and Chicago, they don't have that. So they need to rely on that. And if you put a product out that everyone knows is going to be terrible and is terrible, you're going to lose that. So I think that is a consideration. And I think that might be the number one reason why, you roll with Derek one more year. I will say, to your point, if Kellen Moore comes in and says, look, I don't see it with Derek Carr. I don't like the way he fits my offense. I don't like him as a player, whatever the reason is. And the combination of, I really love Jackson Dart. I really think we should trade up for Shedeur Sanders. I think he's the future and feels strongly about that. Then those chances go way down that Derek Carr's back in 2025.
I'll just say baked into my 90% is knowing how this franchise operates. And it's really not in the MO of this franchise to kick Derek Carr to the curb on June 1, or even say on March 1 that we're going to do this on June 1, because that's really normally how it works. It's just not in there. That's just not how they operate. So, again, that's why I'm saying it's 90%. If this were some other franchise in a normal situation, maybe I'd make it 60 or 70%. I'm just saying I just don't think that, GP, fair enough. And I'll show. I don't usually show comments over and over by the same person, but this is fair enough. He's trying to. It's when you read something, it doesn't always come across the way that it's meant to be. He also wasn't trying to be critical of the media. I'll rephrase. Most media members and fans thought McCarthy had the job, himself included, and they didn't even interview him. That's a fair statement. Okay, before we let you go, Zach, I do want to get your opinion on the Super Bowl. We're about to have our official picks. I know all of our picks are in the special section. By the way, tell us about the special section that's coming out.
Yeah, 34-page special section, Advocate Times Picayune. It was printed this morning. I think it's going to start to be distributed tonight or maybe tomorrow morning in like hotels and restaurants around the CBD and Superdome area, French Quarter. And then it will be in the Times. If you're a subscriber, you just go pick up a Sunday paper. It's included at no additional cost. So it's going to be, instead of getting your normal like 80-page Sunday newspaper, it's going to be like 115 pages, 34 pages. We got complete breakdowns of both teams, columns from Jeff Duncan and Rod Walker about the teams, a historical look at each of the 10 previous New Orleans, in-depth historical look. Jeff did them. They're great at each of the 10 previous New Orleans Super Bowls, which is a lot of fun. So yeah, that's all in there. Local kids, local players, Devontae Smith and Justin Reed. We have features on them in there, the South Louisiana guys playing in the Super Bowl. So we got it all.
Yeah, and it's look, 34 pages. A lot of work went into this section, and a lot of changes were made last minute. And I know that you worked well to make sure that all that got put together. And look, as far as the historical perspective, which is stuff that I'm very interested, nobody does a better job than that anywhere. I'm not just saying across. I mean, I'm saying nowhere. Jeff Duncan does the best job at that, and that's all stuff worth looking at. Of course, our wonderful photography, both from our library and stuff that's going on currently. Catch It, Times-Picayune, and The Advocate. Okay, your prediction, Zach, that's going to appear in that special section. I'm about to give mine in about 10 or 15 minutes.
Okay, so I did go back and forth on this a little bit. I think if you had asked me after Conference Championship Sunday, my answer would have been different. However, I've actually come around pretty strongly with some conviction in this pick. So I'm going Eagles 27, Chiefs 19. And by the way, out of the 12 picks from staff members we have in there, mine was the biggest margin. It was just 8 points. So, I think there's a universe in which the Eagles there's a universe in which both teams win by more than this. I just think we get wrapped up a little bit in the Mahomes magic, and the Chiefs always find a way to win. And I don't discount that. I do think if it's a close game, if Chiefs get the ball back down 4 with 3 minutes left, I think everybody in the entire universe is going to think they're going to find a way to win it. But I just think the Eagles have so many other advantages. Their pass rush, their run defense against the Chiefs' kind of makeshift offensive line, their running game with Saquon. I know Jalen Hurts hasn't been good in the playoffs. He's had an extra week off. I think he was still knocking some rust off from the concussion. I think they still have at least enough of a semblance of a passing offense to where, and this has been an amazing front-running team the Eagles have. You look at how many times – you remember they were 2-2. After they left New Orleans, barely winning, they got pumped by Tampa Bay. They could have easily been 1-3. They were 2-2. Now, they had some injury problems of their own. They didn't have Devontae Smith or A.J. Brown for that Tampa Bay game. They had their bye week after that. Since their bye week, this team, including the playoffs, is now 14-1 with the one loss on the last play of the game at Washington and kind of a miracle finish in a game in which Jalen Hurts was out for more than half the game with that concussion. So that's the only time they've lost in 15 weeks. This team is much better than people are thinking. I understand Mahomes' magic is a real thing. I'm not discounting the Chiefs, but I think the Eagles are just the better team.
Want it noted for the record that Zach Ewing is betting against God. It is noted on the record Zach Ewing is betting against God. I'm going to pull a Zach Ewing on you. I took your name off the screen. I want you to spell your name backwards. Spell your name backwards.
Gniwehcaz. It's not bad, is it?
No, that was pretty good.
I thought somebody might ask me this, so I'd practice.
I figured you would. In case you missed it on the Saints Insider podcast, which you can catch, you can find them NOLA.com/Saints. You can also find them on YouTube. Obviously, it's the best way to find them. It's NOLA Saints, I believe, right? NOLA Saints?
For the YouTube channel?
Yeah.
It's saintsonnola.com.
Saintsonnola.com. You want to check them out. But what Zach's been doing is everyone that's come on, at least I know yesterday and the day before, as they went off, he was asking them to spell their name backwards. Some of them did it very well. Others had a rough time with it. Either way, it was pretty comical.
I'm sure you noted, Jim, that Cesar Ruiz was really good at it, and Rashid Shaheed was really good at it.
Rashid
which
Shaheed
is a longer name. You know who was not good at it?
Brilliant.
You know who was not good at it? Was Spencer Rattler.
He was not. And I think Spencer said something along the lines of someone said that they ever do. I know it was Kyle Long who said if they ever do that at a DUI checkpoint,
sobriety checkpoint, he's in trouble. I think any of us would be in trouble, especially if you actually had a drink. Yeah,
no kidding.
It's not
easy.
All right,
Zach. I will see you Sunday. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Get some rest tomorrow, pal.
All right, buddy. I'm going to go to the casino, so I don't know how much rest there's going to be.
There you go. Win some money then. All right, we'll talk.
Some mental rest. Yeah.
All right. Zach Ewing, everybody. Look, that's what's the things to talk about with Kellen Moore. We talked about the coordinators and what's going to happen. Potential coordinators. Who are going to be the offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator? Right now, with the leading candidates, if this is Kellen Moore, we're right about 90%. If the 90% is true, I think there's a good chance it's Doug Nussmeier is the OC. Good chance Brandon Staley is the DC. That would be quite interesting, especially after the huffing and puffing I've been doing about Brandon Staley. However, as long as he's not the head coach, I'm okay with him being a being a DC because he's good at that. So stick to what you know, stick to what you're good at, and he won't be making the decisions on whether to go for it on fourth down. However, I got a feeling Kellen Moore's 36. He's going to be one of those Dan Campbell types when thinking about when to go. I don't know this for sure. Maybe I'll get a chance to ask him. Maybe I won't if he's the coach. But is he going to be one of these ones that goes for two at weird, stupid times? Is he going to go for it on fourth down from his own 48 and it's 4th and 3? We'll worry about that later. Let's just get a damn coach and move on. All right, before we get to the picks segment of the show, and again, stick around after the picks segment. We got a very special extra point because today is a very special anniversary for the New Orleans Saints. You don't want to miss it. We told you earlier we will let you know more about how Evangeline Securities can help you figure out what your family-run or privately held business might be worth, whether it's time to sell. How do they do it, you ask? Well, after their complimentary valuation of your company, if you decide to proceed, native New Orleanians Nick Braden, Rodney Melton, and the folks at Evangeline will begin an extensive auction process among established private equity funds from around the world and to maximize the return process for the founder and his or her family. Whenever I said around the world on Radio Row, I'd get about 15 heads spin around. Like, why is he getting so loud? Well, we're talking about Evangeline Securities, and we're pretty fired up about them. They're the top producer on their platform. There are very few companies like them in this area, and none with their dedication and success. They are fully licensed. They're ready to serve you. So get in touch with Nick and Ron about what's really important. It ain't Kellen Moore. It ain't the Philadelphia Eagles. And it ain't the Kansas City Chiefs. What's really important? The rest of your life. In case you didn't understand that. It's the rest of your life. You can find them at www.evangelinesecurities.com. All right. Time to get rolling. It's picks time. It's picks time. Ba-da-ba-ba-bum-bum-bum-bum. Da-na-na-na. Here we go. Swap them up. What's up, gentlemen? How y'all like them standings? I don't have, by the way,
standings? I don't see standings. It's blocked on my. I can't see the standings.
Yeah, you can see them. The game picks, by the way, I'm saving for last. So that's why you don't see our game
I was going to ask you to do that.
We're going to do them one by one, and when we get to the game picks, saving those for last. So the rules for this week were we've been doing 15 points the last, 3 weeks or whatever it is. We're doing 20 for the Super Bowl. You can earn up to 20 points. Max bet on any game or any pick is 10 points. Minimum is 1. You have to make 4 picks, including a pick on the game. And so here we are.
And if I fall asleep, just yell, Jim. If I fall asleep.
Oh, get out of here. You can't stay up till 1:30, you wuss.
I don't know. The older I get, I went to Nightcap last night, the live show with Shannon and Ocho, and said show starts at 8. Okay, doors open at 7. Get there at 6:30. The lobby opened at 7. The doors to the arena opened at 8. Yikes. The Southern Band came on at 9. They came out at 9:30.
Did you fall asleep in your chair?
No, I didn't, because it was pretty entertaining most of the time.
All right. Well, it's a little late for your taste. I know you're usually sleeping at 8.
It was really cool to experience Shannon and Sterling were the first brothers to go into the Hall of Fame. And Sterling surprised his brother and showed up to the show. So it was pretty emotional. It was pretty cool.
I'm just upset that Ocho wouldn't sign your jersey.
I wasn't upset about it because it was a meet and greet, and you got to. Okay. It was just moving the line. If he started signing everything, I was ready to go. It was almost 1 a.m. I was like, I ain't even asking. I showed it to him. He was like, no, we got to keep it moving. I'm like, no problem. See y'all later.
All right, if you're listening to the pod, it's Uncle Big Nick, it's Gabe Henderson, it's me, as we're about to do our Pick'em segment here on Dattitude Podcast on this Friday afternoon, presented by Evangeline Securities. Gabe, I know you had something you wanted to talk about, so before we even get to the picks, I know you got a little mini rant. What is your mini rant?
Can we change the goddamn name of the MVP award?
To the best quarterback in the league?
To the best player award, however you want to spice that up. But I'm so tired of every other year getting a new justification for a player winning the MVP. Last year, Lamar Jackson was the best player. This year, Josh Allen is the most valuable player. The name implies that the award is being given to a most valuable player, which, if you want to tell me that Josh Allen is the most valuable player, I'm not going to argue against that. He has the worst supporting cast of any of the candidates, albeit he still has a good one. So that's fine. Lamar Jackson was the best player. And that's what the award has gone to over the last however many years. It wouldn't change
the way anybody voted is the problem. Just
no,
because I take it literally, and if I had a vote,
most valuable, or just if you strip it down, valuable and best are not synonymous. So how the hell are we voting one or the other?
Yeah, it wouldn't change. I just don't think it would change their vote.
It's just absolutely crazy. And I'm just tired of it. I'm tired of all the debates. I'm tired of voter fatigue. I'm tired of different reasonings being given. I mean, it's ridiculous at this point.
That was the most shocking thing that happened last night. Was the show was going on when that was announced, and they couldn't believe. People were yelling in the crowd that Josh Allen won MVP. And Shannon and Ocho could not believe it because Lamar won all the AP vote, that All-Pro thing.
How many times have we said on this show, and if you listen to us say this on this show, you shouldn't be surprised, follow the odds. The odds had Josh Allen. The odds told you for the last 2 months that Josh Allen was going to win this well. I know it kind of
Lamar closed as the favorite. Lamar
closed
as a heavy favorite.
And
no. He was like minus.
Favorite.
It was relatively heavy.
After he was announced All-Pro first team, the odds went way in his favor because nobody has ever won All-Pro QB and not won MVP.
Okay, well, where was it before that though?
Josh Allen was a slight favorite. It was like minus. I don't take my word as the gospel because this is just ballparking. He was like minus 120 and Lamar was like plus 140 or something like that. But when they closed,
I would have noticed. I wish I would have paid attention to that.
Yeah, there was a brief few minutes after Lamar was named first team AP where he jumped to like minus 450.
I wish I would have paid attention to it because I know how I would have told you this on the show. I'm not just saying this now because we know all this, but I know how sports writers' minds work because I've been around a lot of them for 35 years, and I was fairly certain Josh Allen was going to win this award. But anyway.
And let me just say one more thing. I think
I've been ignoring him. I didn't mean to ignore you, Who Dat Daddy. Thank you for joining the show. I know you were here earlier, and I'm sorry I didn't get to your comment. Good to see you as well. Go ahead, Gabe.
I think Josh Allen was the fourth best player in the league this year.
I'm not saying I would have voted for him. I've already said I would have voted for Saquon. So
I think he was the most valuable, sure, but he was Saquon, Burrow, and Lamar were all better.
Yeah, and one problem, a big problem, and I talked about this earlier in the show, problem that I have is I hate they give the
quarterback award.
Yeah, it's a quarterback
that's what
award.
It is.
And it's not just that, though. They give like a consolation prize. If you're Offensive Player of the Year, that means you're getting a consolation prize. And it's just so stupid. If you're the Offensive Player of the Year, you're also the MVP. It's just dumb.
And not only, I mean, it's, if you take it at face value, if it's the true most valuable player award, a quarterback is the most valuable player on the field, which that's fine. If you want to have a most valuable award go to a quarterback every year, that's okay. And then make your Offensive Player of the Year your MVP. Yeah. I mean, it's just crazy. There's so many flaws with how
maybe we'll have this rant when we announce it, when we find out who the Super Bowl MVP is, because I know there have been times when we disagreed on that. I know a couple of years ago, Rams-Bengals, we had a big conversation on Bayou Bets that we thought it should have been Aaron Donald, and instead it was Cooper Kupp and blah, 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 whatever.
I believe
James White. I think James White should have won it in the Atlanta game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I believe 7 of the last 11 have gone to quarterbacks. If I'm not mistaken.
All right, let's talk about our picks again. This is our non-game picks first. Again, real quickly, the rules are you have to make 4 picks, including your game pick. You can use up to 10 points on any one pick. So the only spoiler alert that I will give is Gabe and I both have saved 10 points for our game pick. UBN has given 5 points to everything. I'm going to start with Gabe. It's been a rough playoffs for you, but over the course of the season, you were the best picker throughout the course of the regular season. In the playoffs, it has not been that way, but you go first. And
Gabe's Josh Allen.
Gabe is...
Gabe. I actually believe I do want to call into question.
Or Jordan Love.
I don't know this, but I believe I have 16 points. points.
Okay, maybe I screwed it up.
I could be wrong, but I believe I do. Which it doesn't matter anyway. I'm still.
I will go up and.
I think I have 39, Jim. You might want to go look back.
Okay, yeah.
I think I have 39.
I'll go and re-add them all before we come back on Monday and show the final standings. All right, Gabe, go ahead and talk about your 3 picks and read them with the points on the air here, especially for those who are listening after the fact.
So my 3 picks, I've got 4 points on the over 48.5. I've got 3 points on Kareem Hunt anytime touchdown, and I've got 3 points on DeAndre Hopkins over 1.5 receptions.
All right, go ahead and talk about the over because I will give a spoiler alert. I am with you on the over, and I know a lot of the experts are on the under, and almost everyone that I talked to during the week, not everyone, but most of them had this game in the mid to low 20s, and a lot of people love the under. I'm with you on the over. I didn't make it a pick, but I really like the over.
Well, a lot of people like the under because these two teams tend to lean under. They've gone under 22 times in a combined 39 games this season. But the edge that I really like is when you look at the historical Super Bowl trends, which I've done a lot this week. The over is cashed in 12 of 22 indoor Super Bowls. It's also gone over in the last 2. It's tended to lean more over recently because of the uptick in scoring in the league. But then just looking in New Orleans, one thing I did this week is I did a deep dive on Super Bowl history in New Orleans. Since the venue change, it's gone over in 4 of 7 tries. I really think that these two teams, the offenses will come through. They've got too many weapons on offense to not put up points. So that's where I'm at.
Well, I hear you. Talk about your Hunt anytime touchdown. This is the same one you did last time, right?
Yep.
And DeAndre Hopkins, you changed that up so you got D-Hop over 1.5 receptions. Talk about those 2. D-Hop is actually one that Adam Chernoff kind of talked about on Tuesday's show. He talked about 2nd and 3rd and maybe even 4th receiver options could have bigger days in this game.
Yeah, I'll start with Hunt. He's scored in the last 4. He's an absolute monster. Isaiah Pacheco has been really underwhelming.
He has been
recently.
Ever since he got hurt, he just seems like he running as hard.
He come back from the injury very well.
Yeah, and so they've kind of leaned on Kareem Hunt. He had a big game in the AFC Championship. You know, my analysis of this one is simple. He's scored in 4 straight. Sportsbooks are still giving his anytime touchdown odds to me at plus money. I'm going to take it.
Yeah.
Especially given.
But it seems like when they get close to the goal line, they just give it to him. He might get 10 carries for 27 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. And then Hopkins, he's weirdly not played much of a part in the postseason for the Chiefs, and I just think my gut feeling this whole time.
Former Texan, by the way.
Yeah, my gut feeling has been though that DeAndre Hopkins is going to play a bigger part. This game, I mean, he talked about it throughout the week. This game means a lot to him. This is his first Super Bowl. His mom's going to be there, as she is almost every game. He thinks this is a special opportunity. This might be his one and only opportunity to get a ring.
Oh, it probably is.
I just think that, you know, a fun little fact about touchdown scores in this game, I think in the last 4 Super Bowls, there's been a touchdown scorer that has odds of plus 500 or greater. And DeAndre Hopkins is my pick for that as well. I've bet on it. And I just, once again, you know, Adam Chernoff talked about it, how these kind of lesser receivers, and I hate to call DeAndre Hopkins a lesser receiver at this point, but that's what he is in his career. They're going to have a bigger part to play. Yeah. Especially when you're looking at the Eagles and how young their secondary is. I think DeAndre Hopkins has got the strength and experience to teach these rookies in the secondary a bit of a lesson.
Yeah, and I think kind of what you said, I'm going to touch on it as well, and I'm going to be playing some DeAndre Hopkins props as well, because I think that watching him on media night, you could tell how special this is to him, and he's soaking it all up. I think he's going to come out with his A game. It's kind of like I ain't as good as I once was, but I'm as good once as I ever was. I think that could be DeAndre Hopkins in this game, so I agree with you.
I mean, I agree with y'all, but it's Andy Reid seems like he just picks guys. It's so hard to pick Kansas City guys. Like Juju had a big game last time. The biggest play of the game, he went to P. Ryan. Like, I know D-Hop wants to play great in this game, but it's only if they scheme it up for him.
Well, no,
I think they
it's
will.
all-
Which I agree with y'all, but I
Gets
think he
himself
do.
open. I think if he gets himself open, Mahomes is going to find him, and that's what it's about. And I think he will. So
Yeah, he's only
that's
got 3 targets in the last 2 games, so he's not exactly someone that they're scheming for.
That's what I mean. It's just
all
weird.
right. UBN coming into this one with 19 points. The one I want to talk about first that's on your list is one of the same ones I've had, and we stole it from Adam Chernoff. And Adam Chernoff specifically talked about this one, so I don't know if it's because you heard it or because you like it or whatever, but Jahan Dotson over to catch a pass. And again, Adam's philosophy, you go back and watch Tuesday's show, and he goes on an explanation. It was a great segment, by the way. If you didn't see it, go back and watch it. But Dotson to catch at least one pass, I think goes to show that there are going to be a lot of secondary players who are going to have an impact in this game.
Yeah, I mean, basically with Philly, it's Hurts, Barkley, Brown, and Smith. And Goddard. That's basically all they use. But I think Spagnola's good enough to try and take that away as much as he can. And you're going to have to throw to Dotson at least once or twice. And Dotson has caught passes in the last few games. He caught a touchdown a couple games ago. Like, it's not out of the realm of possibility that he catches 3 balls. You know, I mean, I couldn't believe the line. Only 1 catch. I mean, that's a screen pass, you know?
And when Adam was talking about it, I had to go double check and see that was really the case. So, yeah, I thought that was a strange one myself. You got A.J. Brown over 5.5 receptions, which is kind of counter to Dotson having a catch.
Yeah, it is. A.J. Brown, he's the number 1 wide receiver against man defense, and the Chiefs play man defense 73% of the time, which Spags, you never know what you're going to get, but he blitzes a lot, and they play man a lot. So I think A.J. can beat man coverage enough of the time so he can get 6 catches in this game. And Hurts, that's the first read he looks at. It's always looking at Brown when he goes to throw. And if everybody says, oh, you got to stop Barkley, you got to stop Barkley. Oh, great, thanks. Like, nobody has been trying that since week 9.
Right.
So everybody, they going to load up and stop Barkley. They're going to have to throw. Well, maybe they don't stop Barkley because nobody does.
I don't know, but none of us have a Barkley prop in there. I'm just saying. Apathy says,
No,
by the way, we should bet on the day that Kellen Moore gets announced. I'll take Tuesday. So that's my guess. Not that either one of y'all have to.
Does
bet.
he announce it after the Super
Bowl? Say it Monday.
You say it could be Monday. We'll see.
The press conference after the Super Bowl. I'm staying in New Orleans.
Yeah, Sunday night at 10:30.
In the Dome.
And the Dome right after the game's over, after they won.
And all the
You've won.
corporate
What do you think
shields
about
go
Moore?
wild.
Kellen Moore, you've won the Super Bowl. What are you doing next?
We're going to New Orleans.
Not Disney World.
Well, I'm not going anywhere. He'd have to go to where he's here.
All right, and then the last pick besides your line pick, you've got Patrick Mahomes, and I know it's a little tight. I was trying to squeeze everything on the screen, so it is what it is. You got Patrick Mahomes over 28.5 yards rushing.
Yeah, he averages 7.3 rush attempts in the playoffs, and we'll get to the game picks later, but I think he runs a lot in the playoffs. That's what he does. He runs a lot in Super Bowls. I mean, basically 4 yards a carry he needs to get. Like, I just think he runs 8 times, he's getting it. You know, it's just he's going to scramble out. This defensive line for the Eagles is going to put a lot of pressure on him, I really think, and he's got to scramble around a lot.
The MVP will say, I'm going to Disney World. Apathy says, Kellen Moore says, I'm going to Airline Drive. All right, I'm not going to lie. I cheated with the Dotson pick. I think what Adam said about secondary players having a role in this game and what Nick said earlier, I agree with. I also like Dotson. I'm putting 3 points on it. I'm also going to talk about, I'm putting 3 points, and this is a complete disagreement with Adam Chernoff, okay? I've given my philosophy on this a couple times this week, but I'm going to talk about it again. So I'm going against the greatest handicapper, I think, in the world when I say this, because he's got the under 38.5. This started out at 41.5 yards rushing for Jalen Hurts. It's now at 38.5, and I think you're getting a bargain. I'm going to go with the over 38.5, and for the same reasons that I've talked about earlier in the week, I think there's so much going to be focused on Saquon that Spagnuolo is going to try to blitz Hurts at time. I think Kellen Moore and Sirianni are going to be ready for this. And I think they're going to be designed running plays for Hurts. I think he's going to run the ball 6, 7, maybe 8 times. He may break one of them. He only needs to break one of them, go 14, 18, 20 yards to help get over this number. I really like Hurts over 38.5 yards rushing again, which is against a lot of the big money players. So take that for what you will.
I like both quarterbacks. I love quarterbacks over rushing in the playoffs because they just run a lot
take
more.
it on themselves, right? I mean, they got to take it on themselves.
Especially these running quarterbacks.
And then I'm going to stick with, for a 4-point pick, the one that got me some money 2 weeks ago. Patrick Mahomes has not thrown an interception in the playoffs. I think he's going to play. Why wouldn't he play his best game in the Super Bowl? I think he's going to play his best game again. So I'm not betting against Patrick Mahomes. I think in fact, I'm betting on him here. The under, he's not going to throw under 0.5 interceptions, which basically means he's not going to throw an interception. So I will bet on Patrick Mahomes not to throw an interception. I won with it in the AFC Championship game. I'm going to bet it again here. Go ahead.
Would you like a little fun stat to support that, Jim?
Would love that.
Vic Fangio-led defenses have faced the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes 8 times. Not only are they 0-8 straight up and 2-6 against the spread, Mahomes has 10 touchdowns and only 2 interceptions in those games.
There you go.
The only reason why I don't like these under interception props is because a batted ball or anything like that. It just scares me.
It does, but
a drop on a receiver that's not the quarterback's fault.
If it keeps hitting, why shy away from it? And if you notice, I'm going to tell this as a little tip. If you guys are betting on Sunday, and I know a lot of you watch the show are, you see all.
I think I'm a bet for the first time Sunday.
Yeah, right. You see all these overs, by the way. Nobody wants to bet unders. Find some unders you like and bet. No one ever wants to bet an under. It's just like college football.
It's no fun cheering. Life's too short to bet the under.
I don't agree with that at all. If you like an under,
it's no fun cheering fun under.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, let's move on to our game picks. We're going to go from right to left. We're going to go first with Gabe Henderson. His game pick. We always talk about never betting against God. And his game pick, he's got 10 points. And I screwed that up. That is incorrect. That is not right. I know you took.
That is not correct.
So ignore that line on there. He is actually taking Kansas City -1.5. So ignore what you see on there. Kansas City -1.5. I don't know what I was thinking. This is like, you want to talk about a rush job this morning. Long story short, I had to go bring something to my daughter that she forgot at school this morning. I was not happy, and it cut about 45 minutes of my prep time off this morning. I was not happy. That's a whole different story. But anyway, Gabe Henderson's 10-point pick, Kansas City -1.5 over the Eagles. Go ahead, Gabe.
Yeah, I told you guys last week's shows, one of them, that I had written a note on my fridge, and it said, "Don't bet against God." And I forgot to snap a picture. I meant to, but before we erased it because I had gone and placed all my Super Bowl bets already. But I mean, that's all the analysis I really need to give here is don't bet against God. Do I think the Eagles are the better overall team? Yes, absolutely. From top to bottom, the Eagles are the best team in football. But the two positions they don't have the advantage are arguably the two most important. They don't have a better head coach, and they don't have a better quarterback. You don't beat Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs until, no matter what I believe, because my gut instinct as soon as this matchup happened was, I kind of like the Eagles in this game. That's what I thought 2 years ago, and I'm not allowing myself to bet that again. And I've got just some fun trends to support it. Mahomes is 8-0 against the spread and straight up in his playoff career as a favorite of less than a field goal or as an underdog. He's 13-0 in his career playing inside a dome, 18-1 indoors overall. And then some fun ones. 16 of the past 20 Super Bowl winners were wearing white. This includes teams wearing white 7-3 in New Orleans Super Bowl history.
You know how I like trends, but even that trend.
Oh, they're just fun. They're wacky. And then my favorite of all, no team has ever lost to Kirk Cousins and won the Super Bowl in the same season. And the Philadelphia Eagles lost to the Atlanta Falcons 22-21 earlier in the season. So there's
has any team won the Super Bowl after beating Spencer Rattler coming in to the ball game? What about Jake Hayner?
No, never.
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 Wow, that's some trend is going to get a little weird.
Yeah, some trends are fun. I did a whole miscellaneous trends section for one of the articles that I wrote this week, and it was fun just seeing all the wacky stats. But one thing I'll give you just a complete shot in the dark play in addition to Kansas City. In the 7 games indoors in New Orleans Super Bowl history, there have only been 3 unique scores combined. 37 points, 56 points, and 65 points. I'll take the middle ground there. You can get Chiefs 31, Eagles 25, which is my score prediction, at plus 41,000 at FanDuel. FanDuel is the only book that offers that score because it's so unique.
What score is it again?
31-25 Chiefs.
Okay.
Cover, victory, don't bet against God.
Don't bet against God, he says. All right, UBN. UBN is betting against God. He's taking the Eagles money line at even money as a 5-point pick. What say you, Uncle Big Nick?
Remember when Tom Brady was God? You couldn't bet against him going for the three-peat, and he lost. Remember when Joe Montana was God? Couldn't bet against him going for the three-peat and lost? I was 8, but I mean, still. Everybody's God until they're not. I just don't think this is the team that's going to win 3 in a row. And Gabe's right. Andy Reid's got the coaching advantage. Patrick Mahomes has a quarterback advantage. Spagnola's a better defensive coordinator. Everything else is the Eagles. Everything else. Offensive line, defensive line, secondary. And this offensive line's huge. They're like 6'6". They average 330. I think they're going to push them around. I think Barkley's going to have a field day. And I think they're going to be up by 10 in the fourth quarter. And Kansas City's not going to be able to come back.
Corey Terrio asked, so that means Kansas City would have to win by 2 by Gabe's line. Yes, that is correct, but I will tell you this. If you like Kansas City, shop around because you can. I know at Caesars, it's been Kansas City -1. And so if you want to bet on Kansas City, excuse me, if you want to bet on Kansas City, I would go to Caesars and bet it or find somewhere else to bet it because it's going to be you're going to get a better number there. So shop for value, as I always talk about.
I believe Bet365 has it at -1 as well. So everywhere else is -1.5.
Anyway, do your shopping depending on who you want. No matter who you like, do your shopping because you can find. We're using DraftKings because that's what we use all year long. We're not going to change now, again, unless some book wants to come out and sponsor the show. Who that daddy says he's with Uncle Big Nick. He's going against the grain. All right. It's time for my.
It's not against the grain, though.
Well, I will say.
On this show, it is.
On this show, it is.
And Jim ain't even picked yet, I know.
Overall, the public is betting on Philly.
Yeah, I will say this, though, and the public is betting on Philly, but the big money, I got to be honest, I was surprised. I thought it was all Philly, and then the guests that we had on the show, and I know it's a small sample size, but of the 30 guests that I probably were sitting there, whether it was my show or whether it was the Saints Insider show, it was at least 65% Chiefs that were being picked.
Most of the big money across all the sports books are on Philadelphia. I'm trying to find something that I saw the other day, but I'll circle back to it.
All right. Well, I don't know how many times I have to say it. I mean, I've said it for 2 years straight now. Don't bet against God. They put it in. They put it on the board. Don't bet against God. They just, Big Nick and Gabe said we just booking Jim's pick. You're wrong. Taking the Eagles.
Whoa!
I'm betting against God. Look, for all the reasons that Nick's talking about, I'm taking the 1.5. I just think that I'll probably sit here on Monday and say you are one big dumbass dummy. You say it.
I'm gonna wear my "You Big Dummy" shirt.
You definitely should wear that shirt Monday if Kansas City wins this game. I'm just gonna say this. Look. I don't think the Eagles are just a better team. I think they're a much better team. And all the things that I've been saying about Spagnuolo, as great as the world sees Spagnuolo, and he is obviously been an excellent defensive coordinator for the Chiefs and for the Giants in the Super Bowl, I just think that Saquon Barkley makes that much of a difference. Saquon Barkley is doing something that no other team that's played Kansas City in the Super Bowl has ever done. And so I'm with Nick that I don't necessarily look. He is God, but he's God right now, and I just don't know that this is the team that's going to win 3 in a row. Somebody's going to win 3 in a row someday, maybe, but I just don't think it's going to be the Chiefs. Nick,
James Cook was averaging close to 5 yards a carry against this Chiefs team, and do we think James Cook and the offensive line for Buffalo are better than Saquon Barkley and Philly's offensive line? And Philly's not going to go away from running the ball like they did. Buffalo went away from running the ball too fast, I think.
Yeah, and look, the Eagles, we always talk about teams of destiny, the teams that have that look. And I've thought the Eagles have had that.
Barkley has that look. Barkley
does have that look.
When he scores a touchdown, like the first part of the game, and everybody goes to congratulate him and celebrate, he just walks to the sideline like, no, not right now. In almost every game in the playoffs, it's just been, just stick to the plan. Let's just go handle business.
Yeah, and I've talked about this on the show. I mean, you think back about things that mean something or don't, and Gabe put out a lot of trends that they don't really mean anything in the grand scheme of things.
They're fun.
No, it's just fun stuff.
But I think one that kind of does, and if you think about the same, and I don't know what the number is, you can go back and look. I'll look. Maybe I'll talk about it during the weekend. Maybe I won't. But I'll probably forget about it. But the Eagles played here in New Orleans already. Don't think that when they came here to New Orleans that Nick Sirianni said, remember this. Remember this stadium. Remember all of this and how this worked. When the Saints went and played in Miami the year that they won the Super Bowl, Sean Payton talked about this. Treat this as if this is a Super Bowl practice game. Like you're warming up because you're going to be back here in February. And sure enough, they were. I'm not saying that is a game changer, but to me, I think that's all part of it. And though Andy Reid is a way better coach than Nick Sirianni, Patrick Mahomes is a way better quarterback than Jalen Hurts, I think the way that the Eagles have been playing defense, I think they will do just enough to limit Mahomes, and I think the Eagles are actually going to jump out to a lead. I think the Kansas City will make them nervous. I think the Eagles jump out to like a 10-point lead at some point. Mahomes makes the comeback, but it's just not quite enough time. I like the Eagles.
Jim, what have you been saying the Saints need to do to rebuild this team?
What do they need to rebuild this team? Well, they need a lot of things.
The trenches.
They need a breath of
trenches.
Yeah, but
you need to build the trenches.
Yeah,
I know, but Philly has the advantage.
Let's not discount Kansas City's incredible trench play.
No, I'm not.
I'm not, but I think Philly's better.
I do too.
That's fine. They can be.
I'm not saying they're bad. I'm just saying
fantastic.
Games are winning the trenches, and I think Philly has the advantage there.
There have been 5 coaching rematches in Super Bowl history. The winner of the first one is 4-0. That's
actually a good trend. That actually means something. So
that is, and that's where I believe the biggest advantage lies for Kansas City. I know we say don't bet against God. Andy Reid is Nick Saban-esque in the sense that when you give him and his staff time to prepare, and that's the thing. That's the thing with his staff is the Kansas City staff has continuity.
Yeah.
These guys have been together for however long Nagy's been there. I believe it's the last 3 years. They've been together. This is a brand new staff for Philly. And
if Nick Foles in Philadelphia can beat Belichick and Brady, I think anything's possible.
And
I think anything's possible in this game in general, but
yeah.
I hear you. And look, I hate being with the public. And there's no question that Philadelphia is the public side. And the public's on the Eagles mostly because they just hate Kansas City. I mean, I'm not saying everyone.
It's Kansas City fatigue.
Yeah, Larry Gibson, Eagles by 6, book it. Charles Mangus, Philly by 3, 24-21. S. Cali, special year for the Eagles. Look, I know. I mean, it is what it is. I just look. I hate being with the public. I'm just going with what I see.
Can we all agree that no matter what, this is the best Super Bowl matchup?
Yes.
Oh, there's no question.
Absolutely.
It's going to be I think it's going to be a fun, great game.
There's a lot of people who are saying, I won't watch this game because of Taylor Swift or because of the Chiefs. If you don't watch this game, you're not a football fan.
Nobody's not.
Because these are two incredible football teams.
The same people that are saying that they're not watching because of Taylor Swift, stop watching because of kneeling.
Yeah, they're full of it.
Let's also just note the fact that Taylor Swift gets shown for maybe 17 seconds out of a 4.5 hour.
It's been a lot. In the beginning, it was a lot. Now it's kind of tampered off.
I mean, it is what it is. It's less.
Anybody who says that is just not telling.
That's a shorter amount of time than the length of your average commercial.
So. I mean, you're not going to watch the game because you're burnt out. It's the same people. Look, I will say this though. I said I wasn't watching the Super Bowl after the no call. I didn't. It's the only Super Bowl I didn't watch, and I literally didn't watch it. So,
did you guys see what Michael Brockers said this week about that? He, I believe it was on Matt Moscona's show. He implied that he tipped that pass.
He's full of dog.
I think he was trying to rile up New Orleans fans, but he did.
Well, he also said after the game was over that he made a joke about it that he got away with murder, and we all know. Don't get me started on that.
Well,
just
I mean, it wouldn't be, by nature of the rule, it would not be pass interference if the ball was tipped, but I don't believe
Right.
it
right.
was.
Even Nick, who hates the Saints, would tell you that was pass interference.
It was.
Yeah,
And I hated that.
Yeah, it
I hated that
if
that
the ball
happened.
wasn't tipped.
I think I put it out somewhere on social media that's the worst thing that could have happened as a non-Saints fan is that. I'd rather them just win or lose than that.
Yeah.
I'm about to hear about that for 80 years.
Yeah, that's no doubt.
And let's wrap it up with this, because I promised you this.
Are we talking about color socks now?
No. Ben Fox reported that of the 5 biggest wagers across all sports books on Friday, 4 of the top 5 are on the Eagles. We've got 800,000 on Eagles money line at BetMGM, 750,000 on Eagles money line at BetMGM, 320,000 on Chiefs money line. I don't know. 100,000 on Philly first half, and 225,000 on Philly money line at Caesars. So those are the 5. Out of the 5 biggest bets, 4 of them are on the Eagles. 58% of the bets altogether.
And I read
not the money, but the bets are on.
I read that Circa needs to make so much, like 365 million. Circa needs Eagles and under.
That's what it as a majority. All the sports books are rooting for the Eagles and the under.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll see what we get, and who knows? Maybe we'll get the band back together on Monday and just have a recap real quick. I don't know. Anyway, enjoy the game, guys. We'll talk to you later.
What would that be? Not Mono-y Monday, like.
Mono-y Monday.
Mono Oliver Monday. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't speak Spanish. We'll figure it out.
Me neither. Muy Grado.
Muy o Monday.
Yeah,
have a good one.
Enjoy it. All right. As I switch out here, there we go. Just having fun, everybody. If you want to make your pick, now is last chance. You are not as alone. You are not alone. All right, I've been hearing a little bit too much MJ lately. I couldn't help myself. Who that daddy? But you are not alone. Apathy says it will show Taylor Swift if Gardner Johnson posts Kelsey. Oh my God! Did my Travis get hurt? My daughter keeps asking me if I've seen Travis my whole time with the suit. No, I have not seen Travis. He'll be just fine. All right. It is about that time to get to, I told y'all, I promised you earlier, and I'm going to get to it right now. Promised you earlier an extra point, and a very special extra point at that. You know what today is. 15 years ago today. Tracy Porter. I told y'all earlier in the week, it's special days for me. January 24th was the anniversary of the NFC Championship victory, which so happens to be my late mama's birthday. Well, today is my late grandma's birthday. She'd have been 117 years old today. She'd have been old. That's older than me even. But on her, what would have been her 102nd birthday, Tracy Porter did this.
Manning in the shotgun, puts Collie in motion, looks in his direction. It's picked off! It's picked off! It's Tracy Porter again! He's running free! He's going to go all the way! Hand outstretched! It is a Saint touchdown! 70 yards on the return! 70 yards on the return by Porter. He did it to Favre, and now he's done it to Manning.
I'm going to tell you what, Tracy Porter knew that route was coming and jumped it. Peyton Manning threw it right to him. He was the only guy left out there to tackle Tracy Porter. Porter ducks to the inside, got that big break when you needed it. Gosh almighty, how fortunate are the Saints to come up with those huge plays whenever they need it. We said that the Colts were a team that don't turn over the ball in crucial situations, but every now and then things like that will happen.
You can never see that enough, right? I mean, I don't know what is cooler about that whole thing. The fact that the Saints were going to win the Super Bowl. I mean, when he picked that off, okay, that's it. Or the fact that they had a pick six, pick it off, run it back, touchdown, going crazy, knocking stuff over. Or Jim and Hokie. And I know, look, we're sad that Hokie's gone. We talk about my grandma being gone. Today would have been her birthday. But you can't be sad. That was Hokie's moment, you know? It's almost like God was giving him that moment because a lot of things changed, obviously, for Hokie Gajan after the moment. But listening to Jim and Hokie, that never gets old for me. It got old for UBN. He said he had to go. Who dat? You right, pick 6, baby. 50. Can you believe that was 15 years ago today? You think about times in your life. And as you get older, 15 years obviously is a lot shorter period of time. And and maybe not in reality, 15 years is 15 years, but it's a lot shorter period of time for someone who's 56. I was 41 then, obviously. Than for someone who's like 35 now. You were 20. And that's hard to believe too. My 26-year-old son was 11 years old back then. 15 years ago. You think about not only how great of a moment that was and how exciting it was as a Saints fan, but just the fact that the Saints won a Super Bowl and you were able to watch it. Have we paid for that Super Bowl? Have we paid for that season? You think about all the moments that went the Saints' way. That's why I like the Eagles in this game. Some years just feel like a year of destiny. The Saints were a 7-point underdog in that game. But if you look at who was destiny favored? Destiny was favoring the Saints. It was their time. We paid for it since the Nola no call, the Minneapolis Miracle, whatever you want to look at, Bounty Gate, all those things. It's crazy. Brian says Jim and Hokie were the best. I miss them. I miss Jim and Archie together. I thought Archie Manning was a fantastic color analyst, but Hokie was great too. There's no doubt about it. Corey says Eagles by 3, 23-20. Look, I'm just looking forward to a good game. Can we get a game like that one? Because that was a pretty darn good game, right? Can we get a comeback? Look, I think the Eagles are going to take a lead. Can they hold on to it? We'll see. You're right, Corey. Also picked off Favre in the NFC Championship game. And I think Henderson said it. And then you want to watch it one more time? Let's watch it one more time. We'll have the extra point. Why not?
Manning in the shotgun, puts Collie in motion, looks in his direction. It's picked off! It's picked off! It's Tracy Porter again! He's running free! He's going to go all the way! Hand outstretched! It is a Saint touchdown! 70 yards on the return! 70 yards on the return by Porter! He did it to Favre, and now he's done it to Manning!
I'm going to tell you what, Tracy Porter knew that route was coming and jumped it. The Peyton Manning threw it right to him. He was the only guy left out there to tackle Tracy Porter. Porter ducks to the inside. Got that big break when you needed it. Gosh almighty, how fortunate are the Saints to come up with those huge plays whenever they need it. We said that the Colts were a team that don't turn over the ball in crucial situations, but every now and then things like that will happen.
You talk about moments of destiny as the last thing before we go off the air here. And again, that never gets old for me. I knew y'all wouldn't mind watching it again. But you think about moments of destiny. You pick off Favre. Excuse me. Going a little over Clem. That's God telling me it's time to go off the air. But you pick off Favre, who's from Kill, Mississippi. What is that? 60 miles from New Orleans? About, I don't know, maybe it's 70 miles from New Orleans, about 30, 40 miles from where I live on the North Shore. And so in a way, Favre grew up closest team to Brett Favre was the Saints. Then you talk about Peyton Manning, and who was he throwing to? He was throwing to Reggie Wayne. Newman High School to Everett, trying to make the connection to beat the Saints. He can't have that. It was a moment of destiny. It was supposed to happen. Tracy Porter, who was from, if I remember correctly, Prairieville or somewhere. I know he's somewhere between the corridor of I-10 to I-12. Maybe he was from Port Allen, somewhere around there. I know that. It was meant to be. I still believe that it was meant to be. And all the things that have happened since, whatever happens this weekend, if Kellen Moore comes to the Saints, that's meant to be. We were meant to go through. You can't have all good times. So have hope, have faith. And even times when I'm negative, and I know we're all negative sometimes, think about where your Saints team is right now, and that this is not the lowest of the low. Things have been way worse here as a Saints fan. I mean, think about the Ditka days. Think about, if you're old enough to remember back in the day when the Saints would only have a coach for 2 years at a time because John Meekum would just fire the coach. Things get worse than they are right now. But let's turn this corner. Let's make them better. I think, and I know you're not used to me being the one that's positive, but I truly believe that things can get better faster than most people think they can. Okay? I am of the ilk that this team, now they're not close to being a Super Bowl champion, but if you could turn that corner, if you can have a positive year, I'm not in this camp of just going 9-8 doesn't do anything except, make the inevitable be further away. I don't believe in any of that crap. The only way you get better in the long run is to get better. Getting worse doesn't make you get better, in my opinion. That's why I want it to happen immediately. I'm excited about what the future holds for this team. Whether I should be or shouldn't, and it's just a positive end, I don't know. But I'm excited about what the future holds for this team. And it starts maybe Monday, maybe Tuesday, maybe Wednesday. We're going to talk about it. I know we're all tired of talking about what if. Is it going to – nobody wants to say, is it going to be Kellen Moore anymore? We want to say, what now? That's the next headline, okay? The next headline is, what now? Right? That's where we go next week. Brian says great stuff this week. Get some rest. I look kind of tired. That's because I am kind of tired. I'm about to go on a Nashville show, so I got to end the show. Someone from Nashville asked me to be on the show. Got a couple more predictions before we go off. Brian says Chiefs 31, Eagles 27. Saints fan says Eagles 33, Chiefs 23. Apathy says, ooh, Dick could trade in the entire draft for Ricky Williams. Oof. Yes, indeed. Who that says he remembers that day, talking about the Super Bowl. He and his wife and kids watched the game of the House of Blues. I watched it from my couch, the same place I watched all the other ones. I was in news that year, was not working at sports. I could enjoy it as a fan. Sometimes I miss enjoying games like a fan. But anyway, Monday, we will be back at our regular time slot on Monday morning, 11 a.m. Central Time. If the Saints announce a coach on Tuesday, depending on when they announce a show, we may have a show Tuesday evening, or we may just hold it till Wednesday morning. Or if they announce a coach Wednesday, we may have a show on Thursday. We'll see how it goes. We'll inform you all when it's going on and figure it all out. But it has been a very fun week. It's been a very interesting week. It's been an exhausting week, but one that I'll never forget, one that I appreciate. And, it's like Corey says, we don't agree on the rat. We don't agree on Derek Carr, but we agree on this. Everything happens for a reason. It's how he lives his life. It's how I live my life as well, Corey. Nobody's guaranteed tomorrow. Nobody's guaranteed anything. That's why we take every day like it is. I mean, I do, and I have for a long time now. I try to enjoy it every day like it's the last. And I appreciate this week, something that I haven't been able to do, although I've been able to come cover a Super Bowl week of, not as much as this week, okay? I never spent an entire week on Radio Row. And so I will thank my superiors at the Times-Picayune, the Advocate, and NOLA.com. I would like to thank Zach Ewing because he had a big part in me being able to be in there. Robert Young, who is my boss at the Times-Picayune. Thanks to all of them for allowing me to be a part of that. And then on Sunday, doing something that I've never been able to do before. I don't know where I'm sitting. I haven't gotten my credential yet. I might be in the press box. I might be in a secondary press box. I might be in the corner of a stadium. I have no idea. They might put me up on top of the scoreboard. It doesn't matter. Because for the first time in my life on Sunday, I'm going to be at a Super Bowl. I'm going to be covering it, and we're going to talk about it. Thanks to all of you. You're who I'm most appreciative for. Thank you. Great show and week always. Hopefully next show we have a coach. Absolutely. Who Dat Daddy? Thank you for being a new part of the Dattitude family. Love to New Orleans and all of our friends. Absolutely. CC Broom, good show. The last football game approaches. It is most definitely a bittersweet moment. There is no doubt about it. The Super Bowl is a bittersweet moment for me. As much as you're looking forward to it, it means that there's no football, no real football, that is, again, for what, 6 more months, 6.5 months, except for the draft and little bits and pieces and what we talk about here in Dattitude. So it is kind of sad. Flora Francis, You love your Saints, win, lose, or die. You're a diehard. No doubt about it. Houdat for life. We're all Houdats for life. That's what, well, not all of us. We do get some knuckleheads sometimes. But it is going to wrap it up for us on this Friday. I want to thank today's guest, Zach, Gabe, UBN, and of course you. You are always our guest here on Dattitude. We hope you can join us on Monday when we'll wrap up Super Bowl 59 and maybe begin to wrap up this Saints coach search. Again, we'll be back at our regular time slot, 11 a.m. Now, there is one caveat. If the Saints are announcing a coach at the same time we would normally go in the air, I am going to push the show back, okay? So if for some reason they're going to announce a coach on Monday morning, if that happens, then I probably will push the show back. That's the only chance. A reminder, if you haven't already done so, subscribe to our Dattitude YouTube page. Click the little bell to receive notifications when we go in the air live. You can also find us wherever you get your podcasts, including Apple, Spotify, and many more. Find a replay of the show at NOLA.com/sports. You can find me, bet.NOLA.com. You can find our Saints people on NOLA.com/Saints. I don't know what I'm doing this weekend, but I'll have something for you as well. I am sure. I'm looking forward to it. Have a wonderful, glorious Super Bowl weekend. We'll see you Monday. Enjoy the game. I hope your team wins. Take it easy, my friends.
If you're looking for the latest scoop and in-depth interviews on the Saints, the NFL, the Pelicans, LSU, along with the best bets of the week, then lucky you. Along with high-powered, in-the-know guests who cover our teams, Jim Derry brings plenty of Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.